Okay, so right here we have our ABC Ecosystems book. What do you notice about the cover? What are some things you notice?
I see different ecosystems.
Different ecosystems. You know what an ecosystem is?
Yes.
You do? Well, this is going to help us understand specifics about ecosystems and words about ecosystems and what you may find in ecosystems. So here we have a picture of animals, some bacteria and stuff, and different lands. Um, and so an ecosystem is essentially different lands with animals, bacteria, humans, different types of organisms, okay? So our ABC Ecosystems book, the content essential standard is science, and I chose 1.L.1, understand characteristics of various environments and behaviors of humans that enable plants and animals to survive. And 1.L.1.1 is just recognizing plants, animals, they need air, water, light, space, food, shelter, and things that may be found in their environment. And 1.L.1.2 is give examples of how the needs of the different plants and animals can differ, and especially in North Carolina, because that's where we live. My ELA anchor standard is RI.1.2, identify the main topic and retell key ideas of the text. So what's our main topic again?
Ecosystems.
Ecosystems. Great job. Okay, so before we start, I want you to think what an ABC book is. What do you think an ABC book is?
It has the alphabet in it.
It has the alphabet in it. It can be anything, really, like our topic is ecosystems. So, our ABC book is about ecosystems, and each letter of the alphabet contains a certain ecosystem word or explanation or part. So I have A is for abiotic, and we have a picture, and we have some information about it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to read, and then I'll ask you some questions and see if you learned anything from our ABC book. Are you excited?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A is for abiotic. Abiotic factors are non-living, not alive, things found in an ecosystem all around us. Abiotic factors are non-living things that impact living factors and impact the function of the ecosystem. Non-living things such as water, sun, air, are a few examples of abiotic factors. Can you think of some other examples of abiotic factors?
An abiotic, they're not living.
That's great. They're not living. So we listed water, sun. What's in this picture that are some examples of abiotic factors?
Minerals.
Minerals, great. Do you know what minerals are?
Like crystals and
Like
rocks.
crystals, rocks. Great job. What else is another example?
Air.
Air, good job. So what is abiotic again?
Not living
Not
things.
living, good thing. All right, B is for biotic. Biotic factors are living things found in ecosystems all around us. Biotic factors are living things or organisms that impact other organisms. Biotic factors or organisms are animals, plants, bacteria, and people. There are three groups of biotic factors: producers, consumers, and decomposers. And here we have a picture of different biotic things. Can you tell me something about a biotic factor? Maybe something you didn't know, or maybe another example of a biotic factor besides the ones we have on the screen?
Would humans be biotic because they're living?
Yep, exactly. Humans would be biotic because we're living. Great. C is for consumer. Consumer is one of the three groups of biotic factors. A consumer is one that eats other living things to get energy. Consumers can be carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores. Things such as plants or animals can be consumed or eaten for energy. And right here in our picture, we have some examples of consumers. We have a crab, a turtle, a lion, a cow. Isn't that cool? D is for decomposer. Decomposer is another one of the three groups of biotic factors. A decomposer is one that feeds on broken down dead matter. Decomposers break down the dead matter on their own. Decomposers then return the nutrients back to the soil. And we have worms, mushrooms, insects, and bacteria. So this is our second type of biotic factors. And what's a biotic factor again?
Something that's living.
Something that's living. Awesome job. Are you a biotic factor?
Yes.
Yes, good job. E is for ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living and non-living organisms. Ecosystems are formed by the interactions between living and non-living organisms. Ecosystems are made up of different living and non-living organisms that make unique types of ecosystems. Interactions between animals, plants, water, sun, air, bacteria, and many more things make up an ecosystem. So this is our overall topic, right? That's a lot of information that goes into an ecosystem. So we're going to be learning a lot more. F is for food chain. A food chain contains the energy that flows between producers, consumers, and decomposers. A food chain shows the order of energy of organisms eaten in an ecosystem. Food chains give the order of energy from the smallest organisms to the largest, the abiotic and biotic, and the producers, consumers, and decomposers. So here you can see we have our producer at the start, then we have a grasshopper eating it, then the frog eating the grasshopper, then the snake eating the frog, and then a hawk eating the snake, and then the fungus and decomposers breaking down what may come out of these animals or left behind by them. Have you ever heard of the word food chain before?
Yes.
You have? Do you think that everybody has the same food chain, or do you think it's different based on the different ecosystems and the abiotic and biotic factors?
You
do? Why do you think that?
Because food chains are different everywhere, because it could be like a cow eating grass, and then like we eat cows.
Yeah, and there's that energy from the grass to the cow to the human, right? That's great. I like that idea. G is for groundwater. Groundwater occurs in certain ecosystems that need it in order to function. Groundwater-dependent ecosystems such as springs, caves, rivers, some lakes, and some wetlands. Groundwater ecosystems are relied on to supply the organisms in the certain environment. So like in the ocean, all the animals live in the ocean, they need water, right? And if there were no water there, what would they do? They would just flop on the sand, right? So certain ecosystems live based on the water there. H is for habitat. A habitat is where organisms live and have all their needs met in order to survive. It's their home. Organisms live, feed, and survive in the habitats. Habitats are specific to the organisms in it. Each habitat supports different organisms in the surrounding environments based on the requiring needs. So we have like a desert, a stream, a pond with a house, and a snowy field. So what would your habitat look like?
Well, we live where it's kind of hot right now, and yeah, probably one of those.
Yeah, maybe the one with a house, because we need a house to live in, right? We need food to eat.
And we need like water from like the rivers.
Exactly. I is for indicator. Ecological indicators are used for gathering and sharing information about ecosystems and the impacts humans have on them. Indicators determine stressors, responses, exposures, and ecosystems. Indicators help us learn about ecosystems around us and how we as people impact them. So the animals, and the water, and the soil, and the air. J is for jungle. A jungle is an ecosystem that is a dense, wet, and humid forest. Jungles contain abiotic factors, biotic factors, wild plants, and wild animals that live and interact. Jungles can be found in tropical rainforests, the Amazon rainforest, and more places. So you see in the picture of animals, water, a lot of thick grass and trees. K is for keystone species. Keystone species are organisms or species that are depended on by other, usually smaller organisms or species. If keystone species were taken out of the ecosystem, it would change the ecosystem, like increasing or decreasing in organisms. Removing them can also cause suffering among organisms or species that depend on the keystone species to live. So like in our picture, if there was no shark, the manta rays or the stingrays would be overpopulated. There'd be too many of them. So the sharks keep the stingrays at a small amount by eating them. L is for landscape ecology. Landscape ecology is the study of relationships in ecosystems. Landscape ecology focuses on the relationships between processes such as animals, plants, biotic and abiotic factors. Understanding landscape ecology helps to improve or maintain a proper ecosystem. M is for marsh. Marshes are wetlands, a type of ecosystem, where land is covered by water mostly. Marshes can be freshwater or saltwater. They can be found on the edges of water like lakes, ponds, or streams. Marshes can contain plants and organisms that survive best mainly in water. So like when you go to the pond, you see like fish, minnow, algae, little birds, stuff like that. Have you seen marshes before?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. N is for nutrients. Nutrients are things that provide food essential for growth. All living organisms need nutrients to survive. Some may feed on others' nutrients, or some may make their own nutrients. Nutrients are provided by many organisms that are then used to help grow in other organisms. So, like when we were talking about cows earlier, the cows eat the grass, but also when they poop out what they eat, it provides nutrients to the soil to help other plants grow. So those nutrients that the cow eats for energy also helps the plants grow. O is for organism. An organism is any living thing such as an animal, plant, fungi, or microorganism like bacteria. Organisms live in ecosystems and help them function. Depending on the ecosystem can depend on what kind of organisms are living in it, as well as how they impact that ecosystem. Can you think of some examples of organisms?
A fish.
A fish? Where would a fish live? What kind of ecosystem would they live in?
A marsh.
A marsh, maybe?
An ocean.
An ocean? Great. That's true. P is for producer. A producer is another one of the three groups of biotic factors. A producer is when organisms make their own food. Producers are plants or algae. They are able to turn water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide into food on their own. So do you remember our biotic factors? What's a biotic factor?
Something that's living.
Something that's living. So this is another type of biotic factor, a producer, because it's alive, right? Mm-hmm. So like plants, trees, grass, flowers, they all make their own energy, right? They make their own food. So they produce it. Q is for quadrat. A quadrat is a square frame used to isolate and study an area of an ecosystem. These small quadrat areas are selected randomly to study plants, animals, abiotic factors, biotic factors, and more. Quadrats help to understand what may be occurring in the area of an ecosystem. So these are little squares that help us study an ecosystem. R is for restoration. Restoration is the process of helping to restore or recover an ecosystem that has been damaged or destroyed. Restoration builds an ecosystem back to where it can begin functioning on its own. Restoration supports biotic and abiotic factors that are a part of an ecosystem. So, have you heard of like fires in California?
Mm-hmm.
And then people go in and replant plants?
Mm-hmm.
That's because all the trees were burned down, and so those trees decompose and they go into the soil, and people need to plant more plants to help restore that environment or that ecosystem. S is for species. Species are a group of living organisms that are similar and can reproduce. Species are specific to their ecosystem based on how they can survive and help build it. Species are mainly animals that are natural in their ecosystem. T is for terrestrial ecosystem. A terrestrial ecosystem is one that is only on land with organisms specific to the land. Terrestrial ecosystems include tundra, taiga, grassland, desert, tropical rainforest, and more. Rainfall, temperature, and climate can identify and support terrestrial ecosystems. U is for urban ecosystem. An urban ecosystem is one that is a mix of humans, animals, and plants. Urban ecosystems are mainly buildings, streets, and other human creations. But urban ecosystems work well because of the different aspects humans, animals, and plants provide to the ecosystem. Can you think of an urban